Welcome to the broadcast, my fruits, and in particular today we celebrate St. David's Day, so a warm welcome to my Welsh fruitcakes. How marvellous, what a brilliant start we have to spring season. Not only did we have Catherine resplendent in red at today's parade, and yesterday some goings on with the Prince and Princess of Wales, which we'll discuss later, but first we have to savour this rather royal news, splendid news, where we find that Prince Harry and his wastrel of a mistress are persona non grata at Windsor. Receive the gravity of this news. They are persona non grata. His own son is persona non grata at Windsor Castle and every palace in the kingdom and the kingdom itself, because the king is frog marching them out of Frogmore. Yes, frog marched out. Pack up your things. Pack up your tchotchkes and your cheap thrills, those rags that pass for clothes, no matter what designer name they have scrawled on them. Pack up those threadbare boxer shorts, Harry, that flap and hang so loosely at those lily-livered limbs of yours. Pack 'em up, get your stuff together, and get it out of the king's sight. Get out, get gone. Get it? Got it? Good. And don't stumble on the way out, dearly. Do you understand? The king has taken decisive action and cut short the lease that was a gift to them, the lease on Frogmore Cottage. It was a gift to them from Her late Majesty Elizabeth. This grace and favour apartment, well, they're out of favour, and there's no grace to be seen. This is disgrace and unfavoured, my loves. Pack up your troubles in your old kit bag and go waddling, my loves. Go waddling, go trotting. Keep going off in that direction and don't return. The whispers are that they are in shock. They're in shock because they're expecting grovelling apologies in the wake of Spare. And, turf Andrew out of Royal Lodge and get us in there, my dear. Give us Royal Lodge with all its thousands of acres. No, it didn't play out the way that they expected, my dear. Out. Get out. Isn't it delicious? We must savour the moment, my dear. Apparently they're in shock, and the whispers are that there are two further royals, unnamed, that are appalled at what's been going on. And this isn't confirmed, so I don't want to cast aspersions, but the rumours are that Beatrice and Eugenie are appalled at the king's actions. Well, put it in your pipe and smoke it, loves, and it's time to decide whether you are royal in spirit or trash. It's time to pick a side. And think about your granny, your beloved granny who you adore so. Think about what she might have advised in her infinite and ancient wisdom. Initially, they were given a few weeks to get their stuff together and get going. They were given a few weeks. Apparently that's been extended, and they've been given a bit more leeway, a bit more time until just past the coronation. Now, we do have to bear in mind the matter that after they moved into Frogmore Cottage, they spent £2.4 million on renovations, and although initially that was received from the taxpayer, and of course there was a big outcry at the time, they paid that off, they paid that back. So we bear that in mind. We have to bear in mind the fact that they didn't reside there very long, through their own actions, through their own decisions, of course, but that was a lot of money to put into it. And I'm only mentioning this just because some people that I spoke to this morning on the telephone have intimated that some of that money will find recompense. And I'm not going to speak too much on that now because I've only had a chance to briefly gloss over that with an acquaintance of mine. But if I can find out more about that, I will bring you the details. But from what I hear, there is talk of some recompense for that money because it was a lot to shell out to refurb the place. and to then have it taken away from them, you understand. And it is worth mentioning here that the king is likely to have hurried this along in the wake of Spare, that this was the final nail in the coffin, so to speak. But it's also worth bearing in mind that he will have heard counsel from the Keeper of the Privy Purse. He will have accepted counsel from Sir Michael Stevens. Over the last few months, there's been a lot of discussions on how various royal households are funded and maintained, because a great deal of it comes down to the maintenance of a royal household. We will take, for example, Royal Lodge, where the Duke of York resides and has done since, I think, 2003. Prince Andrew's been there. And it is a vast, sprawling mansion, Royal Lodge. I mean, Frogmore Cottage is a really nice size. Previously, it was 5 different staff houses, staff quarters, that's been transformed into one large cottage. It's not some pokey little thing. Although I've got to say, for my taste, I could never live anywhere with such small windows. I don't like small little square windows. They make me feel rather confined. But that aside, Royal Lodge is on a different scale altogether, my dear. I mean, it's so sprawling. And Andrew himself, as part of his deal of living there over the past years, has been to help maintain it, and I think he's spent almost £8 million since he moved in on keeping it in its opulent state and making various improvements. And it's a 90-acre property, and he's set to have his allowance cut, his £249,000 a year annual allowance cut from this April, if Charles has his way. But he's told friends that he's unable to maintain Royal Lodge without that funding. So it would be rather convenient if he were to move into Frogmore Cottage, as is being reported that it's been offered to him. And I think that Frogmore Cottage, although it may appear a downgrade from Royal Lodge, Andrew, whether or not he deserved it for his bad decisions that he made with regards to the company that he keeps, he is no longer styled, HRH is no longer a working royal, and I'm not quite sure why he needs to live quite so palatially, even if it's the style he's grown accustomed to. You know, why he needs such a grand lodge when Frogmore beckons. But what we're able to garner from this decision from King Charles is the fact that it is absolutely crystal clear that he wants there to be no thread, no elasticity between the true working royal family and this husk of a Montecito version of royalty. He wants there to be no thread whatsoever connecting the two, only the loosest of familial threads. Of course, the king would love to be able to cherish and embrace his grandchildren in particular, and actually get to know them and have some kind of relationship. But that's been denied him at their behest, through no fault of the king's whatsoever. None of this is the fault of the king's whatsoever. And they can just eat up the mess that they themselves have spewed into being. Because the king won't be blackmailed by your vulgarity, as we see. The king won't come grovelling. Nor will Big Willie. Harold. How satisfying. More footage from his vulgar show with Stephen Colbert has emerged. Another 10 minutes worth of Q&As. We learn such things that Harry believes in reincarnation and wants to return as an elephant. An elephant never forgets. They don't forget, do they, Harry? Perhaps that's why you've got a knot in your trunk. You've got a knot in your piddly little todger, my dear, so that you never forget. I'm never going to forget what Papa did to me, his darling boy. I just can't forget, and I'm going to take my revenge on that villain Camilla. I want you to come at me. I'm going to take revenge on what they did to my wife. How could they do that? How could they do that to my poor Meghan? She's so beautiful. She is so much more pretty than Kate. When they impressed, I know that Big Willie fancied her. He wanted her. I hope he did. She's so much more graceful than Catherine will ever be. She's so much more Classy. No, Harry. She didn't hold a candle, a flame, or a flicker to Catherine the Princess of Wales, and never could, never would. And as for you, Harold, against Big William, Sweet William, you think that you can compare in any which way but loose? Oh, boy! You've got a lot to learn about the world, haven't you, my dear? You've got a lot to learn about masculinity. Masculinity, how to be a real man. A true prince. And a gentleman, moreover. Because any pauper out there, any commoner, any peasant can be 50 times the gentleman that you've proved yourself not to be. Any pauper can channel the royal spirit, but you are channeling the heart of a pauper that is poor in spirit. You might be able to put it on for the Mountain Street and enclaves and the Hollywood crowd and crew and your mates, your celeb mates and chums, my dear. But if you can't pull it out of the bag for your everyday royal duty and service, as the rest of your family do so gracefully, then it's worthless. All worthless. He was asked, do you prefer the window seat or the aisle in an aeroplane? And he replied, cockpit. I don't want to know about your armpit, your cockpit, or any other kind of pit, my dear. All I'll tell you is that you are the pits. So leave your cockpit out of it. I ain't going anywhere near that cockpit of yours, my dear. He was asked if he'd ever asked anybody for an autograph. And he said, yes, which is vulgar to begin with. You do not have royalty asking celebrities and sports stars for autographs. That is so vulgar. But Harry admitted to doing it, asking sportsmen in 2003, I think Johnny Wilkinson, this, that and the like, and he says, he asked for their autographs while they were naked with their willies hanging out. I ask you. He likes talking about willies, doesn't he, this boy? Willy this, willy that. Willy. You know, some of you ask me in the comments, do you think he's in the closet? Do you think he's hiding? I certainly hope not, my dear. If he is, I hope he stays in there and remains there till he's all bones and a few tufts of ginger hair. I ask you, I hope he stays in there. To be quite honest, no, I don't believe that. Although I do think he might have a few daddy issues that he might want to resolve with the rogering in the field and not by the likes of Sasha Walpole. So, you know, maybe there is some deep hidden persuasion. But I would rather it remains well and truly locked away. So he better not start sniffing his daddy's perfume and hallucinating all over it as he did with Diana's. I would rather the memories stay locked away. So any therapists out there that are working with Harold, don't get any funny ideas. Keep those memories locked away. But, oh, it's Willy. That's my job. And I ask you, Harry. Oh, and this was the worst one. What's your favourite smell? They asked Harry. His answer, can you guess? My wife. The Pong. I'm sure she smells of Soho House with their candle collection and their fragrances. And I'm sure she smells like greed. What does greed smell like? What does unadulterated, ruthless, wicked ambition smell like? Mixed in with a little jojoba oil and something that I made with my ingredients from the pantry as a little face mask as I was baking cookies in the kitchen. So I had the smell of bakery in my hair, along with the smell of filthy lucre as she fondles and caresses those banknotes, those greens. Yes, she smells of the colour green as she watches and tends to the banknotes piling up. What's your most used app, he's asked. BetterUp, he says. Of course. What else but his wonderful patronised startup BetterUp, with all its proliferation of expert life coaches. It's first on his speed dial. What shall I have for breakfast today, dear? Call BetterUp. That's a good idea. I'll ask them what I want. Every question in the world, every dilemma in the world, every day in the world of Prince Harry, turn to BetterUp. Turn to my life coach. They'll know what to do. They have more wisdom than the royal family and everyone in London. Shall we discuss something a little more gratifying for a few moments, if you please? Something actually worthy. And that is the Prince and Princess of Wales, as they have been in Wales celebrating St David's Day. And Catherine appeared this morning in this Mary Poppins affair, in red, to celebrate the Welsh occasion. This Mary Poppins affair, all she needs is a few cherries sprinkled on that hat and some kipper feet, and she'd have Mary Poppins off pat. Wonderful to see her with an updo in an elaborate knot. Really nice. Yes, I adore her with her flowing tresses and all the luscious curls or the sleek look, whatever. But I have to admit, I have been missing lately more updos, so it's nice to see. And one of the reasons is because I like seeing the footage, and when she's always poking her hair, getting her hair out of the way, as people do. I mean, she's not as bad as Meghan, don't get me wrong, or many other people actually, but here, always having to get it out the face, it annoys me, and I like the sharpness when a lady just puts it in a coiffured updo and gets it out the way and leaves it there. I find that very royal. You never saw the Queen messing with her barnet, did you? Not once. That was never flapping around her face. It's royal. Same with Anne and Margaret. But she had an updo. She was visiting the 1st Battalion Welsh Guards for the St David's Day parade. Oh, and she was in Scarlet McQueen, fit for the future Queen. Scarlet McQueen, of course. And spicy gloves. Some very spicy gloves going on there. I like that little extra look. And on her breast, she wore a delicious replica of a brooch that was presented to the Queen in times past. A Welsh Guards leek brooch. And the original version of this brooch was funded and gifted by some Welsh Guards to the late Queen in the oldie days, I believe. And the Queen was rather charmed with it. And so instead of wearing some fancy, expensive brooch, she would always remember when she was in Wales, whenever she could, she would bring out this sort of home-funded, humble brooch of the leek, and remember to wear it. It used to impress the guards. And William presented leeks to the officers and guardsmen who turned to issue it along the ranks. And, of course, William became Colonel of the Welsh Guards back in December, following on from Charles, who had been in that role since 1975. And the parade concluded as William took the royal salute. And this was following on from some very successful events yesterday in Wales when they arrived there. The first one being at a rehabilitation centre where there is a therapy garden being developed. And we got to see Catherine sprinkling Sweet William seeds on a patch of soil for staff to plant in the therapy garden. Sweet William, and William did notice that. How very lovely. And they were there to learn about the work, the support for those who are struggling with the effects of drugs and alcohol addiction, and they learned about how the garden facilities and the outdoors are used as part of that therapy. They saw new plans for allotments and a garden being created thanks to the support given to social enterprise Life at Number 27 by the Royal Foundation. And this is part of their community impact pilots. Remember, we spoke about this at the end of last year. It's a new way of tying in these royal visits with community initiatives that have a particular focus and impact on the community that they're visiting. To give the visit a bit more power royally and a bit more bang for its buck so that people can really correlate the cause and effect of royal involvement and patronage, rather than just glossing over with what seems like rather superficial visits. So it's a new way of doing it. They popped into a leisure centre and had a head-to-head on the exercise bikes, which made headlines because they really went gung-ho for it. Head-to-head, Prince and Princess, and it was actually a 45-second race. And who won? Who do you think won? It was Kate. It was Kate. She brought it home and received a small trophy, actually, for her pains. And she was wearing a white, sort of off-white turtleneck and a cream coat with a houndstooth Zara skirt. The advertising that she gives Zara. Everything Zara's this, Zara that, isn't it? Zara, Zara, Zara. They're a Spanish company, aren't they? I believe. You know, I'm not fond of Zara at all, I have to say. I went through a phase a few years ago finding a few things there, but I don't find the quality very good. But when I've been to Spain, I have to say, and popped in, I found that their versions are better quality, because some of those more European outlets won't accept some of the more inferior quality that you might find on English soils. You know, Spain, Italy, France, they ain't going to let you get away with some of the cost-cutting exercises that we found on these. So I found a difference in quality there. But they were present at this leisure and fitness centre in Port Talbot to hear how sport and exercise could support mental health and well-being. And Catherine was handed a spring of daffies, some lovely daffodils, the other national emblem, by a little 2-year-old girl, Cora Phillips. And yesterday's excursions came to their conclusion in Llanelli, where William was unveiled as the new patron of the Wales Air Ambulance charity. Courteney Cox was interviewed by Variety magazine, and she was quizzed about Prince Harry's revelations in Spare, where he rudely told the whole wide world that when he was staying at Courteney Cox's residence, he discovered some magic mushrooms going spare in the fridge. They were partying there for a few days, apparently. Found a box of black diamond mushroom chocolates in her fridge. This was extraordinarily indiscreet. I can remember reading about it at the time. If I was Courteney Cox, I wouldn't have been quite so magnanimous in my response, I guess. She hasn't taken it seriously, but, you know, like most people, I've got a great affection for her. I think she's lovely. And for quite a few of the, you know, the friends, shall we say, friends, those that came out of that phenomenon, like Courteney Cox, and she's a very nice girl, but, you know, you don't tell tales out of school, Harry. She might have forgiven you and laughed it off. I certainly haven't. You don't tell tales out of school, and one doesn't snitch. One doesn't grass. And of course, he didn't say that she was taking them herself, but you don't give away that kind of thing. You know, there's nothing wrong with finding mushrooms in somebody's fridge. You know, wonderful. It's not my drug of choice. I'd be quite despondent and think, well, where's the cocaine? But, you know, it is what it is. But you keep these things to yourself. You keep it stumm. And you stay royal. That's not royal. Yeah, that's one of the reasons she may not be surprised about this. She's used to the celebrity world. She doesn't realise the utter horror. You know, the fact that her confidence has been betrayed by a royal, the son to a king. And this is the trouble, you see, because of Harry and Meghan, they are blurring the distinction between celebrity and royalty. Well, in one way, they're illustrating the stark difference between celebrity and royalty, because Catherine and William still haven't, you know, their footing has been faultless, as has Charles's and Camilla's. But in other ways, I think particularly abroad, not with you guys, but, you know, abroad, and maybe to some of the younger ones at home, it blurs the line between celebrity and royalty. You know, this is what Harry and Meghan have been doing. And I actually think that's one of the most insidious ways that they have inflicted damage on monarchy, by blurring that line. But thankfully, we have good stock still in-house to redraw it and make it clear and visible to the rest of the world, when this coronation is a good opportunity to do that. Anyway, I'm digressing, but she said to Variety magazine, Courteney Cox said, yes, he did stay for a couple of days, probably 2 or 3. He's a really nice person. And then she said that she saw Harry at a private party, I think in more recent years, but he was busy talking to other people, so she didn't approach him because she's a lady. And she said, I haven't read the book. I do want to hear it because I've heard it's really entertaining. But yes, it's gotten back to me about it. I'm not saying there were mushrooms, she says, but I definitely wasn't passing them out. So she makes it clear that somebody else might have left it in there. They were having a good old fun time under her auspices, but it wasn't her direct involvement. And whether or not she forgives Harry for it, it was vulgar of the man to associate hallucinogenic drugs, or whatever these black diamond mushroom chocolates are. It was vulgar of him to associate them with a lady. Outrageous behaviour. This hapless boy. A very poignant moment passed rather quietly this week because of all the billions and billions and God knows trillions of stamps all over Blighty and the entire Commonwealth featuring the late Queen's portrait, that famous silhouette of all those trillions. The last set, at least the last set released by Royal Mail, came to pass this week. A special stamps collection marking the 100th anniversary of the Flying Scotsman steam train, and this set was approved by Her late Majesty before her death last year. The last set with that familiar silhouette, and I think it actually creates a very fitting tribute because I think it is a set of stamps, you know, many of them would have gone under her radar and some of them she might not have thought especially attractive, but these ones are wonderful. The Flying Scotsman, perfect, with some beautiful landscapes on them, some lovely pictures, and of course the connection to Scotland itself, where she loved and lived and died. Watch out, Fergie's about. Yes, that party girl, Sarah, Duchess of York, is really in the spirit this year, isn't she? She's been back at Lulu's and was captured on photographs. She was captured trotting out of Lulu's again in Mayfair, that private members club, wearing a check blazer, gold buttons and flats, and a rip in her nylons. She'd been following Charles's example with his threadbare socks. Well, I think they were acceptable. But no, I don't like seeing holes on display in your legs, my dear, like that. Looks like a sort of fag ash burn. Thank you for joining me today, my dears. I enjoyed your company and I hope that you are enjoying the spoils of spring. Thank you. Do leave me a juicy comment, and thank you to those of you who have left me a little tip jar treat. It's very much appreciated. And if you'd like to treat me to a little slice of spring cake, my tip jar is in the description box below. I'll catch up with you soon. Stay royal and stay younger than springtime in spirit, my dear. Toodle pip.